Okay, so for this functional skills question, it looks like we're going to need to draw a graph, we've got a table. Let's give it a read through and see what we need to do. The table gives some information about the number of visits to a gym last month. We can talk about what that table means in a sec. Part A says complete the frequency column, then in a minute on part B, we're going to need to draw a graph for that information. Now to complete the frequency column, we're just going to work out what the tally represents. So each of these blocks represents 5, so that's 5, 10, so the frequency is 10. For the next row, it's going to be 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 41, 42, 43. So there's 43. For 11 to 15, we've got 5, 10, 15, 20, 22. And finally, 5, 10, 11. Now what these numbers actually mean, it means there were 10 days where they had between 1 and 5 visits. There were 22 days where they had between 11 and 15 visits. That's what this means. Just by the way, the reason why these numbers look a little bit blurry is because I've zoomed in a bit, which you are allowed to do on your exam as well. It's really easy to do, just like that. And perhaps for a graph question, it actually makes more sense because it's easier to see the grid when it's a bit bigger. So we've completed the frequency column, that's part A, and now for part B, we need to draw a suitable graph for the information. Now we can see across the bottom, we've got these bars that we can click and drag, so it's going to be a bar chart, and the categories across the bottom are going to be the number of visits. So first thing I'm going to do is say that's what these bars are going to represent. So this is the number of visits, and the different categories are 1 to 5. The next category is 6 to 10. Then we've got 11 to 15. And finally, more than 15. And you can type more than 15. Or if you wanted to, you could say like 15 plus. They're quite forgiving, just to make sure you don't have to do too much typing. Like as long as you get the idea that that's the column that represents more than 15, it's fine. But I'll type the whole thing in there. But how high do we drag the bars? So up the side here is going to be the scale that represents frequency. So we're going to start at 0, and we can see that the highest thing we need to go up to is 43. So what could we go up in? We can go up in like 1s or 2s, 5s we can go up in, or 10s, those are all nice things. And we're just going to try them and see if they get us up to 43 or not. So let's say we want to go up in 2s. So 0, that would be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. No, it doesn't even get us close to 43. So what if we went up in 5s? 0, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45. That's actually pretty perfect because then our tallest bar will go right up to very, very near the top of the graph. So we're going to go up in 5s. That's good. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, and 45. Now we haven't yet labelled what this is, but it is the frequency because that's the numbers we're going to be dragging the bars up to. It's the frequency. Okay, now we need to actually get the bars to the right height. So the bar that goes from 1 to 5 needs to go up to 10 because that's the frequency. So we click and drag, we drag it as accurately as we can up to 10. Sorry, a little higher than that, about there. The next one goes all the way up to 43. Now 43 is a little tricky because it's between 40 and 45. Now the number of squares between 40 and 45 is 10. There are 10 squares there. But if those 10 squares represent 5 in frequency, then 2 squares must be 1. Let me just explain that really quick. So if 10 squares equals 5 visits to the gym or 5 days where there were that many visits to the gym, then 2 squares equals 1 visit. It's a bit like we've divided this whole thing by 5 to find out what 1 in the frequency is represented by, and the answer is 2 squares. So that's probably a really long-winded way of explaining. 2 squares on the grid goes up by 1. So if I go up by 2 squares, that's 41. Another 2 squares is 42. Another 2 squares is 43. So just there. And then from 11 to 15 is 22. Again, it's a bit fiddly because it's between 20 and 25, but 2 squares is going up by 1, so we've got 2 squares, and that's 21, 22, another 2 squares. And finally, we've got 11, so we drag it up to 11, so we get to 10, another 2 squares higher is 11. And there it is, there's our graph. The question's not asking us to do anything else, so we've labelled everything, all these boxes are filled in, so I haven't missed anything. And that's it, we've drawn our graph. Good stuff.